Hello, this is Berrin from Ragic speaking. I'll just configure some of my streaming options and then be with you guys. Today we're going to talk about getting started with Ragic. We're live on both YouTube and Facebook Live, and I do hope this is going to be helpful for most of our viewers here who are just getting started with Ragic. So I've gotten a lot of requests on doing a basics webinar. So this is the basics of using Ragic and creating a database for your company, and we will talk about building a database, how to connect some sheets to each other. We're not gonna have time to go over all the linking options, but I will talk about them, and we will also talk about the difference between the form and listing pages. So we have 3 more minutes to start. I think this is quite new to me for the Facebook Live. I think it has to be scheduled to go live at a certain time, so I can't really start early, but I can talk about the next webinars this month. So on the 20th, which is next week on Thursday at the same time, which is 1:30 p.m., we are going to have a Ragic office hour. So what that basically means is that you can go online during the webinar at any time you want and then ask me questions that you want answered. And on the 27th, we're going to have a sharing data with Ragic webinar. That is also about the basics. It's more about access rights and how to share data with your colleagues, your customers, your vendors in different ways so that you can fine tune what everyone can see and can do while interacting with your database. All right, so on the 20th, you can ask me any question you want related to a database design, or if you have challenges you want to overcome with your own database, you can let us know. And on the 27th, it's more of an overview on how to use the access rights tools. All right, so we're going to start in a couple more minutes. I am reviewing what the live chat is on YouTube, so you can write on the right side of your screen there should be a live chat link. If your monitor is a little bit smaller, then you should scroll down a little bit on the video and the live chat is going to be below, and you can write any comment at any time during this webinar. Basically, I will be able to see your questions and then reply them out loud and post links if needed. On Facebook Live, again, I'm not entirely familiar, but I should be able to see your comments, so forgive me if I miss anything. If I see your post and I cannot reply on time, I will probably get back to you through the comments on YouTube. So if you're watching on Facebook. So if you're watching our stream through Facebook, you can leave a comment there as well. I will monitor both YouTube and Facebook to get to your questions, and hopefully this would be useful for our newer users. All right, so we will get started in a bit, and hopefully this would help you get started with your database. All right, so basically what we have on our Ragic database is a number of sheets you can create on your database account, and then those database sheets can be viewed in a few different ways. Now this is a listing view that is familiar for you. It looks like a spreadsheet and it has columns, and the records are shown in rows separately like this. So I'll zoom in a little bit to make you see better. I think, well, let me know if the streaming quality is bad. Alright, so basically we have our records in individual rows on our listing page, but what we design when we're getting started with our database is actually the form page. So the form page is when you click on any of the rows on the listing page, you'll see that every record has their own detailed breakdown for different fields, and they have their values in different fields. So this is a customer form that I created. I will go over how to create a form in a bit, but this is one I created beforehand. Basically, I have some basic fields for my customers' information, and I can enter data into these separate fields. And when I do fill out a form and save it, it will get saved in the database sheet, and I can see my database sheet's entries on my listing page over here. So that's the terminology. Basically, the sheet is all my customers. And I can have several sheets. For example, I can have a sheet for customers, I can have a sheet for products that collects all the product information, and I can have a sheet called sales orders where I fill in my sales orders that actually have information from both the customers and products spreadsheets. So it's not, we don't really call them spreadsheets, but they look like spreadsheets on a listing page. All right. For people who have just joined us, I will be monitoring both Facebook and YouTube for your comments. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to write to me through the live chat on YouTube on the right side of your screen, or on Facebook as a comment. So I'm streaming through both YouTube Live and Facebook Live. So I hope that helps. We're gonna go through creating a database sheet now. So basically what I did here while creating this sheet for my customers is create the form. Now this is the design mode of the form that I just clicked into with change design over here. Keep in mind that whenever you create a form, the listing page is going to be created automatically. So when I add a new field over here, such as like VIP, so that we understand if the customer is a VIP customer or not, I can have it as a selection field, and I can say yes or no, or only option could be yes, so that the non-VIP ones can be not have that choice. And you'll see that there's a drop down menu for the selection field that comes up during my form. And once I save that entry for Sandra, yes, he's a VIP. And what I did there is I added a new field on my form page. So it actually changed for all of my records here. So Jane and John, their entries will also have a VIP option. So when I edit a form design, it will be edited for the entire form within that sheet, and you can make field additions or you can delete fields if you want to. Alright, so if I want to see their VIP status on my listing page, I can go to the the design mode on my listing page, and these fields I did not see on my listing page, but I can add them. So once I select VIP and add it to my listing page fields, that will show up as a column on my listing page, so I can actually see their VIP status. Now we're gonna make this all from scratch, but if you have any questions about it, please comment down below so that I can see and answer any questions if you have them. Alright, so I'm gonna make a similar sheet for products, and it's gonna have basic information that I actually have a products sheet. I'm sure you have a lot of spreadsheets lying around like this one, but I'm gonna like imitate this spreadsheet to create a new form in my Ragic database. Alright, so basically I have a products list over here with very basic information, which is the product ID number. This can be your SKU if you're using products for your in your database. And I have their product name and their category and their prices. So I can actually just import this data to my database to create a new sheet, but I want to show you how to create a new database sheet from scratch. So we're gonna just create a new form with the fields we have on our spreadsheet, and then perhaps make a few entries and then import the rest of them. All right, so I'll create a new sheet. To do this, I can either click on the plus icon over here, or I can click on the arrow next to my tab. So if you have just started with your Ragic accounts, you probably don't have any tabs, especially if you did not install any of the pre-made templates. you can just create a new tab by clicking on the plus icon over here and the plus icon to create a new tab. I want to create my sheet under my existing tab over here, so I'm making sure I've selected the sales tab, and now I will create a new sheet called products. Alright, and if I wanted to upload this spreadsheet directly, then I would check this box, but now I'm not going to do that. Alright, so let's click create over here. And basically that will bring me to the form design of my new sheet for products. What I do here is I can start typing the field names that I want for my products sheet. So what I want is from the right, we can have a look at what we need. Let me actually make this larger so that you can see it more clearly. So I have a product ID, name, and their category as well as their price. Now the product ID, I don't really actually want to type in all the time. And I can see that my format is 6 digits of numbers. Yours might be a little bit different. But basically I will have this auto-generated by Ragic. Now there's a field type for that. We have a bunch of different field types that you can use. The auto-generate is one that will generate a number or a letter sequence. Not really letter, but you can use dates and numbers and that use letters to have as a prefix. Basically what I have here is a 6-digit number, so I will change the formatting to have 6 digits. So I added a 0 in the formatting. This formatting is, I think, following the JavaScript formatting. If you're not really familiar with that, you can pick one of these formatting options from the options that you have listed underneath here. For now, I'm just gonna use the formatting I had over here, and then since I have 6 digits, I will have 6 digits being generated. Alright, and the product name will be a free text. So free text is a field where you can enter anything. And the category is going to need to be a selection option. So you can see that this turned into a selection field without me doing anything to the field type. The reason for that is Ragic kind of detects what kind of keywords you're typing in the field title. So when I say like category, it kind of understands it's going to be multiple selection options. So I will enter my options underneath in this choices box, so that we can have a drop down of options when we are filling our form. Food and drinks, health, home, office, electronics, furniture, and what else do we have here? And that's it, furniture. So those are my options. You can have more, you can have less, you can have an entirely different thing for your own database. Alright, so the next field I'm going to create is price, and that is going to have to be a money field. As you can see, since I wrote price, it kind of understands it's going to be a money field. So these numeric fields can also have different formatting options, and for me, I kind of want it to be like 2 digits after the 2 decimal points after the dot over here, so I will delete those 2 hashes. So I could have just selected this one that is pre-made as well, but just select the one you need for your own cases. And I'll just save this and then try imitating, like entering my product details. So you can see that I have an empty form here. And basically these 4 fields that I just created in the form design page are going to be here. They're empty, and when I go to my listing page, it's also empty. So I can either create a new record by clicking the new button, or I can click on an empty form page and then click new, and they will both come here. Let's make up a new product and say like white mug, and let's say it's its office or home. Home is better. And its price can be $6.30. And when I save that, that will be saved as an entry in my database. Now, you might ask me why the product ID is 1. That's because I set the auto generate field to generate a number. It always starts from 1, but you can actually set the sequence to follow. So for example, if I had set my following sequence to be 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 2, it will continue with that sequence on my next entry. So let's try that out. I just entered that number and I can say set current sequence. And if I save that, my next entry will be generated with that number. So if I am writing, for example, a purple tumbler, and that's also home, and the price could be $15.45. That is just saved, and the product ID will continue with the next number in sequence. So if I want to import all my data from my spreadsheet, I can do that as well. Let's try doing that. So from tools, you can see I have a bunch of options over here. Under import on the right side, we have import data from file. And when I click that option, it's giving me a place where I can upload my file, which is, I think, which one is this? This is from the last one of our previous webinars. So it's this file that I'm gonna import. Basically what we want in the spreadsheet formatting is that the first row should always be your field headers, and the rest of the rows should be your field values that correspond to the column headers over here. So that's usually how people format their spreadsheets anyway, and we are trying to make that easy. And hopefully it's easy to understand while uploading your files. Alright, so I'll go next. Let's see, upload. Alright, let's try that from the top. Let's go back to our products, and I will try importing that again. Normally we kind of recommend saving as a CSV file, so I might just import the CSV version of this, so it might be alright easier. There we go. Alright, so if you are using another language, it's useful to look at encoding. For English, we can use UTF-8, it's fine. And then it's asking me, the import wizard will pretty much take you step by step, but I'll just go through the steps as well. So it's asking me if the first row of my data is the header of my different columns, and it is, so next. And in this step, you pretty much have to check to see if the target fields are correctly identified. This sometimes might change if you have different names for your fields in Ragic. So it's always great to make sure if it's mapping to the correct field. For us, that's correct, so I'll just click next. And it's asking me how I want the import to be handled by the wizard. Now, this is going to be useful when I am updating values. For example, if I already had all this data in my database already, but I'm updating the price list from a spreadsheet or something, that is always more useful. So what Ragic does is it checks the first column in your spreadsheet over here to see if it already has those values inside the database, and then updates anything else that has changed. So it's always useful to have a key field like a product ID over here in your database account for each sheet. So for my products, I have a product ID. It might be a product code for you or an SKU number or something else. If you don't have one, I highly recommend you to add one for every single different sheet that you have. For example, for my customers, I have a customer ID. I really do not recommend using an email address or phone number to identify people from each other. A number is always better, an auto-generated number or something that makes sense to you. For example, for your employees, you might have an employee ID number, or for your students, you might have their student ID number. So there is always an ID number that you might be able to use, but make sure they are unique to that person. A lot of times I see people identifying customers from each other with their full name. That's not always a good idea because people can have the same full name, so that you might have like several Jane Does or a few John Smiths who are all different people, and then it turns out like you don't really have a way to tell them apart from each other. So it's always good to have an ID number to identify all your records. All right, so we know that ours is like new data, so either one would be would do the same for my data processing over here. But keep that in mind, if you are renewing data, you are updating and overwriting your values with the ones that you're importing. Alright, I'm clicking next over here on importing my data. So that imported pretty quick because I don't really have much, but it's usually fast as well. So it imported all my data that I had in my spreadsheet, and now I have 40 records on my products sheet. There you go. So each record I can click in and there will be more details. Alright, any questions so far? Jeremy is saying, missed the start. Can I watch a replay? Jeremy, this is a live YouTube live recording, and it will be uploaded on YouTube after the webinar is done, and that would be later today. It does it automatically after processing the video, so you should be able to watch the recording afterwards. Alright, so moving on, we just created a product spreadsheet, a product sheet on Ragic by creating the products form page, and then that generates a listing page for my products, and we imported data from a spreadsheet that we already had into the product sheet over here. So now we have a customer sheet and a product sheet. So for the people who just got here, I'll show you our customer sheet as well. It's pretty basic. We only have the customer ID and their name and some information like phone, email, street address, and different fields for that. And we also have a VIP option to see if that customer is a VIP with us or not. All right. So the next thing is we want to create a sales orders sheet to be able to have people put in sales orders, and then so that we can process the order and see the totals and whatnot. All right, let's go and create a new sheet from here under the sales tab again and call it sales orders. And again, I'm clicking create over here to create a new sheet, and this goes to my form pages design mode. And basically what I want on this form is my sales order ID, the date, and which customer is ordering from me, as well as the products they're ordering. So let's start with sales order number and sales order date. And again, since I typed date into here, Ragic understands that it's going to be a date field over here from the field types. I actually don't really want to bother entering a date whenever I make an entry, so I'll actually set the default to be the creation date for the entry. So the sales order number, again, I can make an auto generate field and change the prefix to SO, so it will generate a number with the day and the number of the order. Alright, so let's save this to field sheet first. The next thing I'm going to need is information for my customers sheet. So basically what I want is I want to be able to select a customer's ID and then have Ragic generate all their information and autofill from the customer I selected. So for that, we have a linking option called link and load. Basically what link and load does is you can select one field to become the master linked field, which is going to be my customer's ID number. And the other information that I'm going to link over to my sales order sheet is going to be my customer's name, last name, their phone. So it's basically a select and click. So the right side is where I'm linking from, and the left side is what I was just working on, the sales order sheet, and where I'm linking to. Alright, their email, and perhaps their street address, zip, city, state. City and state. And I guess we don't really have to have their VIP status right now on this sheet. So what that just did, let me show you. When I'm creating a new entry, the sales order number is going to be automatically generated from Ragic, so I'm not touching that while entering my data. The sales order date is also auto-generated by Ragic because I selected that today's date to be filled in by default. And the customer ID, I can just click on this drop down arrow over here and it will show me all my customers. So I can actually filter my customers through various fields on the listing page, what I can see from their listing page, or I can filter from the search box over here if I have many customers. But I only have 3, so I can just directly select one of these. Let's say John is putting in the sales order. And you can see when I selected their customer ID, all their information that corresponds to that customer ID is being filled from my customer sheet into my sales order sheet. So that makes data entry very, very simple and fast while you're doing data entry. Now I'm gonna do this the same for products on the sheet. But as you know, when somebody is ordering products to buy, they probably have a quantity of products they're ordering, and they're probably ordering multiple products. So to do that, we're going to have the same type of linking in a different way. So we're going to use link and load again in our form tools now to add my products underneath my sales order. Again, I'm selecting form tools as the menu over here, and I'm selecting link and load. And this time I will select my products. Let's give it a second here. There we go. So this time I will be linking my products, and again with the product ID over here. And this time I'm going to ignore where the value normally would be, and I'm going to just directly link product name right next to where my product ID is going to be. So you can see the white fields over here on the right side of my field titles. Those white blank cells are usually where the field value is going to be. When I ignore that and link directly next to it, you can see the white values shifting downwards. I will see what that means in a second. Alright, so let's link the category and price as well. And you can see that the white cells all shifted downwards for these 4 fields. So let's exit the link manager for a second and save. So what this means is when I have linked my fields right next to each other, ignoring the value it would have been, it becomes a subtable. So a subtable is kind of like a table inside my form, so that when I do it in a subtable kind of way, I can have multiples of the same thing. So same fields. So I can have multiple values that are coming from my products sheet. For example, let's select Fitbit. So John is buying a Fitbit, a beige couch, and a keyboard. And as you can see, as I enter new data over here, the subtable I'm filling is expanding. So I always have space to add more products that he's buying. So you can see it expands. It doesn't really have a limit, and you can save multiple products that John is buying. So what I need for my sales order is actually a quantity of each item, and then I probably need a subtotal for that one item that John is buying, and then I probably need a total for the sales order as well. So let's add those fields. So I can actually continue adding to the subtable over here with a quantity. So that is going to be a numeric value with just a number, and that I'm going to enter myself. So subtotal is a monetary value, and I want only 2 decimal points, so I'll select this one. And we can add a formula to our database sheet that will calculate the price of each line item. So it's going to be price times quantity for this. And in our formulas, we always refer to the field headers, so the blue part of the field. So it's going to be, for John's line item, D15 times E15, so the price times quantity, D15 times E15, and no, you don't really have to use equals to in the front of the formula because this is not a spreadsheet application, and this is how we use formulas. For the total, sales order total, that is also a monetary value, and it's going to be the total of the subtotals over here. So for Ragic, for subtables, we can just refer to F15, and that will calculate the total, the sum of all the subtotals over here. So in my formula, I'm writing F15, and let's test that out now. Alright, so let's say he bought 1 Fitbit, 2 beige couches, and 5 keyboards, and 20 vases, and 1 white frame. So you can see immediately that the subtotal is calculated automatically according to my formula inside there. So 1 times 123.89 is this, and then 2 of beige couches make 219.84, and so on. So that's how the subtotals are calculated for each line item, and the total of all these is going to be displayed over here. So those are automatically calculated, and when you save it, just saves as the value on those fields. So immediately what we have is a sales order form that is complete, and we can actually use this listing page to look at the details of each sales order form. So if we want to fine tune this a little bit on our listing page design, we probably don't need to see the zip or street address of this person or their phone or an email name. We probably just want to see their ID number, their name and last name. So you can always keep the things you want to see at a glance on your listing pages so that it loads faster and then looks more cleaner when you're looking at the form, the listing page itself. All right, any questions so far, anyone? All right, let's continue. So now that we have the sales order sheet, we probably want to see John's orders underneath his customer sheet over here. So from what we know about John, we have his basic information, but we don't see his previous orders. So that's what we kind of want to see over here. So this method that I'm going to add his sales order information for previous records that he has is possible because I am linking his customer ID over here. Okay, so using this link and load method also helps me to add back this information that I have on him because we already have a link in between those two sheets with the method show references from existing sheets. All right, so we want to link to the sales order sheet and add that information as a subtable underneath the customer. So we already have the customer's basic information, so I don't really need their name, last name, city, and state because we already have them over here. But their sales order total, and date we probably want to have. So let's insert. And this is a read-only feature, so it will display the sales order number, and once you hover in it, it will show you the sales order details. Okay. So this again was called show references from existing sheets and form tools in my design mode. And you can see that I have, now that I added that, I can see this link that I just created in between. So if I click on the gear icon, I actually have an option of making one of the fields over here a link to go to that entry. So if I created it to a sales order number and save it, it will become a link that I can actually click on to go to that certain sales order. Okay? Alright. So what else do we want in our database sheet? We probably would like to see some statistics on the products that we're selling. So we can actually create a new sheet from our sales orders. Now, we don't really see the line items that people are buying over here. The reason for that is they are buying several products in one sales order. So we can't really display those in our listing page. Over here, we can only display the total. If we want to see all line items and how much was purchased in each sales order, we can actually generate a new sheet that has this information. So what that does is it will bring all my sales order information. So if, for example, Sandra is also buying a few items over here, let's select a few items. So let's say she bought 2 hamburgers and 5 Fitbits and 2 Discmans in the sales order, and let's save that. Okay, so Sandra has a few ordered items and John also has some ordered items over here. So once I create a new sheet from the subtable that we have, we can select sales order number to link back to the sheet if we want to, and let's click create new sheet. Now the newly created sheet is going to have all products that were ever sold, and it will show me the sales order information, as in which sales order it was on, and all the line items information. And if I wanted more information, I can actually add those as a field from their parent sheet. So the sales order is the parent sheet, and let's say I also want to see who bought it. And let's say we also want to see the sales orders total and the date. These again, what I'm adding are from the sales order sheet, and this is, we can kind of change the sheet name to become sold products. And this is basically a sheet that you can export data from and look at all the sales information and make statistics from it. Alright, any questions so far? So basically this is all products ever sold. Questions, anyone? Alright, so you can see that right away we have a lot of linked data, and well, we can also, since we have this link already for the product ID and with the sales order information, we can probably use that to add to our product sheet and show which sales orders they were sold in. So we can choose the sold products and I'll link that as a subtable, just what we did before, with the sales order number, total, and the date, and perhaps also the customer ID and the quantities. So for the products we already sold, which is what, let's see, Fitbit, we can see that we sold them separately. And one sales order, there were like one sold item over there, and then on another one there was 5 sold. So you can pretty much look at the statistics from within the product sheet as well. Okay, so a lot of times there are some restrictions on what kind of products are available. So let's say if we also have the stock information, for example, the inventory information, you don't really have to do this on the products page itself, but this is one method that you can use. So you can have an inventory field over here and an inventory check, say in stock, yes or no. So you can add a field formula over here to say like if D1 is larger than 0, then it will be in stock, or out of stock if not. So I'm just gonna make sure that I spelled these correctly over here. So in stock, out of stock instead of yes and no. Alright, so basically if I have like 50, then it's gonna be in stock. See? And if I want to edit all of these items from within my listing page, I can press E on my keyboard, the E key, because that's a hotkey, or I can use edit multiple entries on my tools menu. And let's say that I am doing stocking. I can just enter information from my listing page. So let's say I just enter information very quickly. 0. And you can, again, as we just did with the import thing, you can actually have this information in your spreadsheet and then just import them in if you need to. So it might be a little different for your purpose on creating a database. If you have like specific questions about like doing things, you can let me know. We also have a lot of tutorials on adding like sub SKU numbers. For example, if you're a retailer selling clothes, you might know that some people have the same SKU number for a lot of different items, and then they have a hard time keeping track of what's what. And that is for sizes. For example, you have 10 small sizes, but you might be out of large sizes. So it's always a good idea to like have different kind of SKU numbers for all these sub items so that you can keep track of them in an easier way. And I have a whole tutorial on that. Now I just saved the inventory numbers, but I want to also process the in stock, out of stock thing. So the fastest way to do that is to go in the design mode and click on the formula you want to populate and apply this formula to all saved records, which will calculate that one field, and it's gonna like do a quick check and populate everything. So you can see for the ones that had 0, it's out of stock, and all the others are in stock now. So the next time I go in and edit something, it's gonna like calculate immediately, and I can save that entry immediately as well. But if you're editing data on Ragic and some data is like supposed to calculate according to a formula that you apply and it's referring to something you changed, that is the fastest way to do that. Alright, so I want to make sure that I'm only able to select the products that are in stock in my sales order sheet. So in order to do that, I'm already selecting a product over here, right? So I can actually go to the settings of my products over here. So I'm clicking the gear icon next to my product sheet that is linked on my sales order. And then with this dynamic filter, I can make sure that the in stock thing matches a value called like in stock, so that I can only see, sorry, I don't need these quote. I can only see the values that are in stock. So let's save that and try adding things. So we know that these commands were going to be out of stock, and also like speakers. So you can, oh no, they are in stock. So basically I cannot see the ones that are out of stock. Which ones were they? Let me refresh that. Out of stock. So Discman, speakers, and board markers should be out of stock. So let's create a new entry. Let's see. So you can right away see that I cannot see a Discman in electronics. I cannot see speakers in electronics, and I cannot see what we're not supposed to see the board marker under office, and we do not. So there are different types of speakers in stock in the office category, which is why we have a different product ID for them, because those speakers are different with the ones that were in electronics. I know you probably have like more detailed product names, but again, a product ID is the best way to identify records from each other. Alright, and that's how you do a dynamic filter that will update according to what you have set, and it will check the value on different sheets that you link with link and load. Alright, any questions so far? Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is filtering your data. So basically, for my products, if I wanted to search for a certain products and I have like thousands of them, then the easiest way would be to just filter it. So you have 3 different filtering options in Ragic. Let's say that I first want to see everything that is in stock. So you can, if it's a selection field, you can see all the selection fields selection options listed underneath. And when you click one of them, it will filter filter that one column according to what you selected. Okay, you can also do this by text. For example, if I typed in stock, it will do the same thing. Or you can do partial searches with that and use regular expressions if you know how to do that. And on the left side, you can see there are several fields. These are actually all my fields in my database sheet. And if I wanted to filter, for example, electronics that are in stock, then I can actually select in stock under in stock or not. And then for a category, I can select electronics. So these are all multiple selection fields. So let's say we wanted to select office and electronics under in stock that were in stock, and then we can filter by multiple fields at the same time with this method. So I'm just going to click search, and it's going to show me all the electronics and office items that are in stock. If I also want a price range, for example, everything under $60 with along with these filters, then I can select everything under $60 and search again. So that will further filter my items. And you can see that there are many options, like everything has its own options. For example, if it's a numeric field, it will give me a range. If it's a date field, it will also give me a range. You can actually select dates, which makes things easier. And well, that's basically how to use this. And you can also save those searches that you make from the left side. For example, if I wanted to search for all items that are in stock, so that I don't see any out of stock items, then I can save that as a view over here. So these views are different settings. For personal view, only that user that is saving this view will be able to see that view. And for shared, all users will be able to use that view. And for the fixed filter, regular users cannot remove that filter. So it's very useful if you only want, for example, your sales team to only be able to see the products that are in stock. You can use the fixed filter, but it depends on what you're doing in that sheet. That is also a great way of controlling access rates, because they won't be able to remove that filter at all. And if you want somebody to see only a certain amount of things, then you can use the fixed filter as well. So I'm going to make a shared view so that every one of my users can be able to use this. Items in stock. So just give a name that makes sense to you and submit, and it will be saved as a view under here. You can clear this filter because it's a shared view, and you can click items in stock to just filter for items in stock immediately. So you can save different types of views as well. Let's make another one for out of stock items. Search, and then save as view, items out of stock, and make that a shared. Oh, I need to type that again. Submit that so that it will be saved over here as well, and I can just filter immediately for different types of views. Alright, so that makes things a lot more easier. And the search bar is kind of like a search engine. When I type something, it will give me suggestions according to what I have in my database. So sometimes this cannot keep up with what you're typing if you have especially imported a large amount of data very recently. It works just like a search engine. So for people who are not initiated in how search engines work, usually the search engine will crawl through your database, and it will slowly index what values are in your database. So if you find that it cannot really display results like this automatically, for example, if I write beige over here, you can see that all 3 products that have beige in here are showing up as a suggestion over here. So if you don't see that, or if you get too used to the suggestions, I would recommend having the database crawl through your data again, and there's a setting for that in our user setup. So in our account setup. So under database maintenance, you'll see rebuild search engine index. So if you find that the search engine does not display suggestions correctly, you can rebuild the search engine index from this setting. Alright, so yeah, that's about it. It's pretty basic to create a database because you just type your field names on a form and then set what the formatting is going to be. And basically you can keep adding more fields as you want to, and you can add formulas to make your life easier. For example, if I wanted a full address field over here that gathers all the data from these fields, then I can just add a formula with the strings. So keep in mind that string formulas need to have an extra raw in them .raw, but it's pretty simple to get used to. In this case, I don't think I need to refer to a string. I just refer to the field itself. So my values are going to be A7 plus an empty space plus my zip code, which is A8, plus don't forget we always refer to the field header when we are using them in formulas. So we also want a space in between here, A9 plus A10, and that would probably be my address. So if I want to have the full address for everyone, when I type an address, it's going to populate this. And if I save, that entry is going to be saved immediately. If I want this to be applied to all records that I previously created, I just make Ragic calculate that, and that will populate my full address for my other customers. So it's pretty versatile to create a database in here. You can just add that full address to the listing page if you want to, and that's about it. So do you have any questions? Are there challenges you want to overcome? Are there like things that you're creating a database for? If you have some questions, I have a little more time to answer them. If you're not really sure or you want to just get started with your database, you can go ahead and do that. And next week, we're going to have a Ragic Office Hour webinar. So in that Office Hour webinar, you can ask anything you want, basically from 1:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. EST. We have different time zones on our announcements, but between those times, you can come in and ask me any question you want. I'm going to be building prototypes according to user questions. So if you have questions beforehand, just email me at berrin@ragic.com. I'll write that in the live chat as well. Over here, just a second. So you can email me beforehand with your questions and I will shoot you a reply, but I will also go through the topic on the webinar as well. So please don't hesitate to write to me directly, and I'd be really happy to help you out and kind of build prototypes so that everyone can see what challenges people are facing. So we do have a bunch of different videos on this YouTube channel. If you are looking for a certain solution, you can look through the videos if you want. We have built many examples like real estate databases, like school databases or libraries or checkout systems, what have you. And we have also a bunch of tutorials as well. But if you have a specific thing that you want to build for your database, please don't hesitate to ask us and we'll point you in the right direction. You can always write to support@ragic.com as well. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We always have new tutorials and tips, and you will also be notified about the webinars and live videos when they start if you subscribe to the notifications. Alright, any questions so far? And Jeremy, once this video ends, I think like within 2 hours it will upload the recording after being processed. Anyone else? Any questions? Alright, I hope this has been helpful for our new users. If you have any questions, again, you can write to me directly or you can email support@ragic.com. I'll always be helpful. I will always be happy to help you in pointing you in the right direction. If you do get stuck in a challenge or like are not quite sure what type of linking to use, you can always write and explain your situation and like give us a few examples on how you would ideally want it to work, and we will definitely point you in the right direction, or if it's something that we think would be easier. Like we can implement new features if we see it's useful for other users as well. But usually we can use all of these linking options that we have under form tools. Link and load multiple versions, new sheet from Subtable, and show references from existing sheets to link data to each other. So I will also go through like these two that we didn't really do much. So the new sheet from Subtable we already did when we were generating all our sold products from the sales orders. So that's basically collecting information from a subtable and displaying it on another sheet. The multiple versions we didn't really do on this webinar. It is mostly to create a copy of your sheet. So basically that copy of the sheet will display your information from the same source in another sheet. And you can modify that sheet to have whatever design you want. You can delete fields from it. You can have different types of access rights. You can add more fields to it, and it will basically be a separate sheet that has the same information in its core. So basically, if I wanted to copy my customers sheet and have a bunch of their payment information that only a select few sales associates can see, then I can have a different version of the sheet, and all my temp sales agents, for example, won't be able to see that sheet with the payment information. So I can actually give different types of access rights, or I can filter only my VIP customers over there and add that as a fixed filter so that only my VIP customers show up on that sheet. So you can basically have different configurations, but in its core, it's the same sheet. So for example, if I changed Sandra's last name on a copy, then it will change on this copy as well. So that is very useful in a lot of situations, especially in different types of access rights that you need to configure. For example, if you want people to fill a version of form and then the other one is going to show the statistics to our researchers internally, you can use that. And again, we did go through a few linking options over here. The buttons are another story. It's basically updating values or posting a value from one sheet to another. So you can look into those as well. We all have these information in our if you hover on the Learn Ragic link on your database, you'll see that we have a bunch of resources. So the user document and the database design document are your Bibles over here, and basically you will be able to search through our knowledge base and our learning center as well. So feel free to use all those resources over there, and if you want, if you still have questions, just let us know and we'll be happy to help. All right, that's all the time I have today with our webinar. I hope this was helpful. I'll go through the webinar dates again on the 13th, which is today. We had getting started with Ragic, and I hope this has been helpful in showing the basics. So on the 20th, please return, and if you have any specific questions, we're gonna build prototypes on different situations. So on the 20th, we have Ragic Office Hour. On the 27th, we're gonna talk about sharing data with Ragic. So we're gonna talk more about these internal users and different access rights, as well as our external users and how you can share your data with the public. All right, everyone, thank you very much for joining me, and again, I look forward to see you in a different webinar, hopefully, and if you have any questions, please email. Thank you. Bye.